we're so funny.
We're so funny. Hi, everybody. So today is a special episode. Every episode is special, right? Of
Very special.
Shit Talking Podcast. And we are pre-recording this one because it's Thanksgiving week. And as much as we love you all, we really weren't feeling going live Wednesday night before Thanksgiving at 7 p.m.
No.
So here we are. We're recording.
No, I intend to be baking pies or maybe just drinking wine. I don't know what I intend to do Wednesday night, but unfortunately it will not be live with you great people.
Yes.
So here we are.
So, and we really do like the comments. We love when people come on and engage with us and you know, we can call people out on whatever brilliant or dumb things they're saying and
either or.
Yeah, so I do like that. So I'll miss that this show. So today we've decided to talk about one of everyone's favorite topics, and that is sex, specifically sexual harassment and sexual.
Yeah, now it's not like a fun topic anime. So no,
I know,
it will not be fun sex. Sorry,
it
guys.
It was the teaser. I had to get their attention. So no, I mean it's something that's been sort of on my mind recently, as I was telling Robin before we started recording, because I'm reading the Ronan Farrow book Catch and Kill, which is all about his investigation of Harvey Weinstein and that whole nonsense, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably don't own a television or ever turn on any kind of social media at all.
Yeah, that means you're not even listening to this podcast, so it's fine. You don't probably have access. You have access to nothing.
Yeah. So So in general terms, it really pisses me off the way that our attitudes still are about the way that men treat women. I know I'm generalizing. I know there are men out there who are very respectful of women, but I'm talking about the context of sexual harassment and sexual assault. There just seems to be this general attitude, in my opinion, that it's just not that bad.
Or not that serious. Like it's not that big of a deal.
It's just not that serious. And I can't even understand how that's a thing, because people's lives are completely destroyed when they're sexually assaulted. And that's not to say that happens to everyone. It affects everyone differently, but it's not uncommon at all for a woman to just be completely traumatized and really never be able to overcome that for the rest of her life.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to me because I know that I've heard a lot of comments about, you know, especially when it comes to sexual harassment, of like, just get over it. Okay, so somebody's making comments to you, like, grow up. It's not that big of a deal. You know, I have had conversations with women who are very confident, very powerful women in their own regard. And this happens to them, and they come to me and they're kind of like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if I should say something. I don't want it to affect my job or how people look at me, or, you know, for people to think that I was promoted within my company because I complained because somebody said something to me. I want to be known for my work, not known as the woman or the man who is sexually harassed. And I say that because it happens to men too, and I actually think the stigma among men of grow up hair is even worse. You know, if you're a man and you're sexually harassed, you're going to get clowned if you go and you say to somebody, I feel uncomfortable, I'm being harassed. Like, your friends will be like, dude, seriously? Like, some chick is harassing you? Like grow up hair. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I think it's even worse for men who are harassed, because I don't think that they can really tell anybody. Whereas I think at least women are starting to be given a platform. I don't think men have a platform at all.
Well, I would love to see women be more supportive of each other in this respect, because I have a friend who, hopefully, if she's watching this, doesn't get offended, but we just have a difference of opinion. But she has expressed that she feels like if a woman doesn't come forward right away, and it happens like years later, which we see a lot in the news, right?
Yeah.
With politicians and celebrities, they're probably making it up. it's just opportunistic. It's too opportunistic that they're bringing this up now. Like, why are they bringing this up now when so-and-so is about to be elected or appointed to the Supreme Court or win an Oscar or whatever the case may be? Why is she bringing this up now?
Yeah, like, I mean, that definitely came up during the Kavanaugh hearings. Like, why is she coming forward right now? I mean, we definitely saw that, you know, with, you know, the prosecution of Bill Cosby, that people are like, why are all these women coming back like 20, 30 years later? I think even sometimes it was 40 years later. I think some of this happened like in the 70s. Now, I don't know. I could be making up dates. Forgive me.
But I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah, but like, why are they coming forward now? And I think, you know, when you look at, for example, Bill Cosby, when I look at that, I'm kind of like, well, I think a lot of women came forward because someone came forward. And then they finally felt it was a safe space because now there was like a sisterhood. It was like, oh my God, somebody else said this happened to them. Now I feel like I can come and say this happened to me too. So I do think there was that safety net. And, you know, same thing with the Kavanaugh hearings. I think that, you know, when she came forward, I know that I accepted her explanation of like, holy shit, this guy's about to be on the Supreme Court. Like, I need to say something. I need to say that this is how he is. You know, when he was just floating through life, it's one thing, but it's another thing when you're in this huge position of power. But I also don't think that those reasons have to be the reason. I mean, sometimes people just suffer in silence for years. Maybe you have PTSD. Maybe you've been trying to bury it. Maybe you've been working with someone therapeutically and you're realizing that, you know, you're not going to get to your place of healing unless you come forward. Who knows what your reason is, but who am I to judge your reason?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could see in the Kavanaugh situation being so angry that, you know, this guy is a douchebag. He tried to rape me years ago, and he's getting appointed to the Supreme Court? Really?
But you know, our first go round. I mean, remember Clarence Thomas? Like Anita Hill got like dragged through it. Like, you know, this is not new. You know, and I think that maybe it's just more eye-opening now because it's 2019, 2020, and you're like, all right, things are supposed to be a little bit better now. So maybe that's why people are so surprised by the reactions, you know?
Yeah, well, I was at a mediation in the past year, and I forget what came up, but something like this issue came up, which probably was a topic that should have been avoided. And the judge who was mediating the case actually said, well, it's not like it was a rape.
What the hell is a rape? What is a rape? Somebody say, like, okay.
And I know, this is exactly how I felt. And of course, it was an old fart, an old white male. And he just said it so casually. And you could just tell, like, he believed that. Like, I'm sure that if he thought he was saying something inflammatory or controversial, he wouldn't have said it in that context. But I'm sitting there, and I was the only woman in the room, and I had steam coming out of my ears. And I didn't say anything because it was not in my interests for what I was there for to start something. But I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the mentality of someone saying that. What is a rape?
I really would like to know that. See, these are the times where we missed the comments from the peanut gallery, because I would love somebody to tell me what the hell is a rape, and how is that different from a rape? Like, I'd like to know, once you double up the rapes, like, does that make it worse? Is it now, like,
which one's better?
I feel, I don't know. I think if I'm going by what this judge said, I'm assuming that a rape is better. A rape is horrible, but a rape, like, a rape is okay. Like,
I think if I had to guess, I think he probably thinks, and I think a lot of people think this, that a real rape is like what you see in the movies where there's some woman walking down the street and she gets pulled into an alley and she's fighting and screaming and kicking and the man's wearing a ski mask and there's this violent sexual act. That's what they think. It's not, well, we went on a date and we were both drinking and I was drunk. I had too much, and I did go upstairs to his place, and we started doing things, and I really didn't want to, but I was too drunk to really express that, and he had his way with me.
Well, even if you're not too drunk to express it, like you could give that whole scenario, and I got up there and we started doing stuff, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this, and I told him to stop, and he didn't. But people will look at that and be like, but you were up there, and you started, like, you know, and I try to explain to people that consent is one of those wonderful things that can be withdrawn at any time. Like, that's just the way that it works. I mean, you know, I think that there's this thought process out there that, like, if you give consent, you can't take it back. Like, if you say, well, you know what, yes, I would like to have sex, and you go on second thought, no, I would not like to have sex. Is it a little inconvenient? May it result in some blue balls for someone? Perhaps. But you know what? Such is life. I think we've all had worse problems than being like, oh, I started having sex and now I have to stop. Like, so what? But I think some people think, well, you started, so you got to follow through. And I think that some women think that. I think that there are probably some women that are in the middle of the act and they don't want to do this anymore. And they think to themselves, I can't say no at this point. And if you're listening to this damn show, yes, you can. Yes, you can say no at any point. Like, that's just the way it works.
I would be interested to hear what some of the men who are regulars on in the Peanut Gallery think. So yeah, I miss them too. I'm curious what they would think, because from a man's perspective, I do try to think about that. Let's say they're fooling around with somebody, and let's say she is too drunk to say that she doesn't want to. How is he supposed to know that?
Well, I mean, this is a tough topic, and I'm going to tell you why. Because on one hand, you may say, well, if either party, and I like to make it very gender neutral, if either party is too drunk, because men can be raped too, I know, shocker out there, you know, the physics of it aside, or the physicality of it aside, you can be raped. You cannot want to have sex even though you are physically excited. But you know, whatever, maybe we'll save that for like a doctor show. But anyway, like, on one hand, you can say, well, if anyone is too drunk, maybe this is just not the time to have sex. Like, maybe even though you're not saying no, or you're not saying yes, or you're not really saying anything, I don't know. Like, maybe as a man or a woman, you could say, you know what, we've both had a lot to drink, and this is not the time to engage in sex. With that said, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, only because I know my mom does not regularly listen to the show, drunk sex is fun. So, like, not for nothing, like, if you're with, I'm just saying, if you're with a consenting person, if you're in a relationship, so by way of example, like, I'm in a relationship, I'm fairly certain my boyfriend knows the answer is never no. Like, that's just not what it is. You know what I mean? So the reality is, like, if we're both drunk and we both have sex, and both of us are too drunk to, like, legally consent, technically it's a rape on both sides. Like, I raped him, he raped me. But, like, when you're in this situation, though, you're kind of like, oh, you know, we both had a little bit of Patron. Not me, I don't drink Patron. But, like, whatever your drink of choice, and, like, we're all feeling a little bit loosey-goosey, and it might make for a good time. So it is a really fine line. So I kind of understand how people are like, yeah, you know, we both got a little sauced and we had sex, versus, like,
no pun intended.
No pun.
Or if maybe anything was soft, there probably wasn't any sex.
or maybe pun intended. I don't know. But like, yeah, like, things happened, versus, you know, I don't know, this doesn't feel comfortable to me because I don't know that either of us really know what we're doing. And it's such a fine line that I understand, not to justify rape on any level, but I kind of understand sometimes to be in a predicament of, like, I don't know if I should be going forward with this or not. Like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. Well, if men don't have that mentality just out of respect for the woman and the whole situation, they should have that mentality out of sheer terror of being accused of rape. So if you're in a situation like that, and if you don't really know the woman that well, if you haven't had sex with each other before, especially, you might not want to go there when she's drunk, because you don't want to be in a situation where the next day she thinks, I didn't want to do that, or why did I do that, or I got really drunk and maybe is mad at herself that she did that, or was participated in it, and is kind of like, because there are people do this, using the drunkenness factor as sort of an excuse, like, you took advantage of me. And right. I realize that might be a little inconsistent with what I've been saying, but I do think that happens. I do think that there are women who will have sex with someone when they're drunk, and then the next day will regret it, and only did it maybe because they were drunk.
But I think it's important to point out the inconsistencies in what you're saying, because I think that that's what makes this topic so hard.
Yeah.
Is that there are natural, just inherent inconsistencies of, like, yes, you should never take advantage. You should never go too far. You should never, put someone in a situation that they're not consenting to. But you also do that knowing that there are some women and some men that take advantage of that. So yes. You do have these people in the world who will do exactly what you just said and say, you know what, I had sex last night, and now in the morning, I'm thinking I maybe shouldn't have had sex for whatever reason. Maybe it's because you're married and you're like, oh shit, I just had sex with somebody who's not my husband, and now I have to justify that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's with an inappropriate person. Maybe you're like, oh shit, I just had sex with my best friend. I have to justify that, whatever it is. And then you kind of go, oh, well, I had too much to drink and I didn't know what I was doing and you took advantage. Like I know that I had a guy friend of mine tell me a story, and this was like from like back when he was a teenager, or maybe not teenager, but like young 20s. Yeah. And, there was a relationship, like a friendship with somebody, and they'd always been super flirty, and it was like flirt. And then they both kind of had some drinks, and they ended up having sex. And this was not like I knew this woman for like a couple of weeks. Like, they'd known each other. Like, they were friendly. And then the next morning, she gets up and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you took advantage of me like that. And he was mortified. Like, he was like, oh my God, like, no, I didn't take advantage. And understandably mortified, because if she decided, well, now I want to pursue this, I want to take this further and say you raped me, his freaking life is ruined because two people decided to do something that maybe one of them woke up and regretted. Like, I think that there's a difference between regretting something and not consenting to it. Yeah. Like, you can consent to something and later go like, oof, I really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, you're
But that's not fair. That's not fair then. You just need to say, you can wake up the next morning and go, you know what? I regret it. We shouldn't have done that. That's different than saying you took advantage of me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. That's a really good distinction. And do you feel like the power has shifted somewhat? I've heard people say these days, especially after the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, because we are becoming more sensitive to this topic. Mm-hmm. So I've heard some people say, now it's completely shifted. Women can just say, he raped me, and everyone believes her, and they just believe that, he's a rapist now. So that there could be women who are lying, or it's a situation where they just regretted it. They consented, but they regretted it later. Do you think that's true? Do you think that has shifted?
I think it's really hard for me to answer that question, because my first thought as you were speaking is, well, that's complete bullshit. That's the first thing I thought. I mean, that was just my gut reaction. But I also think that we have to be really cognizant of our own perceptions and our own biases. Like, I am a woman, so I think I'm naturally going to fall on the side of like women, of protecting women, of believing women. That's always going to be my default. Mm-hmm. Do I think that there are certainly instances where men are put in a very bad position because someone said something that is not true, and then as a result, they've had to deal with that stigma or that issue? Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and say that never happens. Do I think that it is a widespread issue that, men are under attack? No. And I will tell you that this whole rhetoric now of, men are under attack. Oh, just shut up. Like, no, you're not. Like, come on. Like this is now doing the whole, like, oh my God, we're under attack. There's a war on men. Like, first of all, sir, there's been a war on women for how freaking long. So welcome to the war is what I say to you, if that's how you feel. If you're feeling attacked and you're feeling persecuted right now, welcome. Welcome to the soiree. Because I have felt like that my whole life, as have most women, especially women of color. That's another show. I'm not even going to get into that. So, welcome.
You just heard it from Robin Rowe.
Welcome to the soiree is what I said.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So no, I don't feel sorry for them, but as a whole, I think as a whole, do I feel sorry for people who are wrongly accused of whatever for any reason? Yes, absolutely. If you're in a situation where you're trying to fight this battle of being wrongly accused of anything, including of rape, including of sexual harassment, and I say that because we just had a conversation a few minutes ago about how difficult it is to discern that line. You know what I mean? So as a guy, you might be like, okay, so I messed up discerning the line. Like, I'm not a bad person. I thought it was a yes and it was a no, and now, like, my life is ruined. That sucks. That absolutely sucks.
Well, I mean, if it teaches people anything, it's to be more careful, which,
right.
You know, I think to some degree, it takes the romance out of things to some degree, doesn't it? I mean, should we all carry around a little card and if you're about to make out with somebody or, you know, have sex, bring out the card like, okay, can I do this? Can I do this?
Right. Like, what are your hard stops? Like, you can have a whole card. Like, are we doing this? Are we comfortable with butt stuff? Are we not? Like, just check it off. Like, check off where we're gonna go today. Like, I don't think it can go that far. But, like, you know, you hear people. I mean, sometimes jokingly and sometimes not. Like, even, you know, like celebrities or athletes that actually make women sign before, like. This is a thing.
They have a lot to lose.
Because you do have a lot to lose, that it does kind of take the romance out of it. But, you know, for you to say, like, I need you to sign, but here's my issue of what I just said. Let's say I do sign. Yes, I consent. Yes, I want to have sex. Yes, butt stuff is okay. I put all that on the list, right? And I'm only saying that because
on your list, Robin?
Butt stuff is not okay. I'm going to put this into the world right now. Not okay. But like, I say that also because I don't know if you're there yet, but you're reading Catch and Kill, and I know that there was a whole Matt Lauer thing with the butt stuff. So
no, I didn't get there yet.
Well, I won't ruin it for you, madam. Ooh. But anyway, you sign this whole thing. Let's say you do that. Signed away. Yes, we're all good. Let's go. But I just said that consent can always be withdrawn. So that doesn't really help you, does it? Like, couldn't I have signed that? And then in the middle, an hour later, maybe you're doing things I'm not comfortable with. Maybe, you know, the list was not that specific and there are things that you want to do that I don't want to do. And I'm saying, no, please don't do that. Aren't I not still a victim now? Like, I told you no. I told you stop. I told you I'm not comfortable. I told you, you know what? I understand I signed that contract. I don't want to do this. I want to go home. Maybe I'm not comfortable because I thought that this was between me and you, and now you just brought 3 of your teammates in. And now I'm not comfortable. Like, yes. So I don't even know that protects you, to be honest, because you can always take that consent away, and you should always be able to take the consent away.
Well, you know what? Women should say no. In a perfect world, women should say no. Just say no, because that is a problem that a lot of women have, is saying no. We're actually going to have a show on this very topic, saying no. And not expecting someone to be a mind reader. But at the same time, the men have to respect no.
Right.
So they can't, you know, no doesn't mean yes. It doesn't mean maybe. It means no. And I know that's something that's been in discussion for a very long time now.
Well, there are a lot of guys out there, and I don't think any that watch this show, which is another time I miss our peanut gallery. But there are a lot of guys out there that I know that they've said, like, they really only, like, I don't think it's like a thing, but they're like, I listen to, like, the third no. Like, the first no was like a, no, stop, I don't know. And then it's like the second no is like, no. And, like, they actually need multiple no's. And I remember saying, I'm like, you really need multiple, like how many, like that blows my mind. But playing devil's advocate, there are women that do that coy thing. Like they're like, I don't want to appear easy. So I'm going to say like, no, I think so. Stop it. You know what I mean? But they don't really mean it. So I do think that when we ask men to be more aware, I feel like it's only fair to also ask women to be fair. If you're saying no, mean that damn no. If your no is a maybe, say maybe. It's okay. You can still be coy and be like maybe. You know, like you can maybe it. But why don't we reserve no for no? Why don't we reserve that word so that everyone knows and there is no miscommunication that no is no? That's exactly what it means.
Well, I think that no is really hard for a lot of people, not just in this context, but in other areas of life. Like I've had a lot of sales training, and they always teach you that a lot of times, whatever you're selling, people won't just tell you, no, they don't want it. They're not interested. They won't say that. They make up all these other things like, oh, I can't afford it right now, or I have to think about it. Like that's a big one. I have to think about it. I'll call you later, or they just have all these excuses. But what it really means is no. Right. I don't want it. I don't want what you're selling. But they can't just say that, which I find personally very frustrating, because if you don't want what I'm selling, can you just tell me that so I can move on? Like I don't want to keep bothering you. So just tell me you want it. And, I'll stop bothering you and we can both not do this dance. So I think people just are programmed to not say something that they know the other person doesn't really want to hear.
I think that that's because we need to normalize no. Like we're living in this society where like saying no is very frowned upon. And I know that I feel exactly the way that you feel, which is that I'm very busy. I have things to do. If your answer is no, can you just tell me no so I can go and do something else? Like, so I can move on. So if I'm saying to you, are you looking to do this? And you don't want to do it. You don't want to. I'd rather you say no. Nope, sorry. Yeah. Not doing that. Okay, awesome. I will go find somebody else who can do it or who wants to do it. Like that's fine. But I also think that can come off as very rude.
That's right.
And I know that I struggle with that because, you and I have said, and we've talked about this a lot, that no is a complete sentence. And I have struggled with making no a complete sentence, with being okay with somebody saying, hey, Robin, can you do this? And just going, no. Without saying, no, I really wish I could. No, I don't. I don't wish I could. I don't want to. So but you feel like you have to sugarcoat that no. Like you have to make it polite of like, oh, you want me to babysit your triplets? Oh, I wish I could. Don't wish I could. No, I don't. But you don't want to just say, no, I can't do that.
So you said something interesting though. You said we don't want to be rude. Why is it rude to say no? Why is it rude to say what you want? Why is that rude?
I don't know if it's considered rude as much as like blunt. I know, and shocking, we're getting off topic. But I know, I know that like there are times where I'll write an email to somebody or I'll respond to someone, for example. And many times during my day, I am doing 14 things at a time. Like I'm trying to respond to this email, I'm answering a question, the phone is ringing, I'm trying to get this document out the door, like I'm doing all these things. And I get an email and I go, let me just quickly respond to this email so it's one less thing on my plate. Boom, response. So I start to respond to the email. Dear Robin, can you do blah, 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 blah. And I want to just write back and go, no, done. But I know I can't do that. So I'll actually write the email the way I want it to be, which is usually like boom, boom to the point, and then I go back and add formalities. I go back and I go, good morning. I hope your family's well. Like I add that in later because that's not my normal is like answer the question and get it done.
Same exact way, Robin. It's so funny because I've noticed in the past couple of days that I'll send an email to someone. It doesn't say hi, nothing. It's just like, can you do the meeting on, December 15th? And that's it. And then I'll be like, oh, maybe I should just be like, hey, how are you? Hope your family is well. And then, hey, can you do this meeting on 12/15? So I've done the exact same thing. I've started adding that just because people do seem to think that when you don't exchange those kinds of pleasantries, that you're a little rude. I don't know, rude, unfeeling, cold, direct, blunt, which are all qualities that I think people consider to be negative qualities.
Well, here's my thought, and this is for anybody who's listening, and who knows me personally or communicates with me. If I communicate with you and I don't say hello or good morning, please don't take it personally. I'm just busy.
Yeah.
But that also means like you're important enough that I'm communicating with you. Like I want to make sure that we touch base and whatever it is that we're trying to do. So like if I send a text, for example, and I think you're different because we think the same. But like if I sent you a text and I said, "Hey Christina, still on?" Not even "Hey Christina, are we still on for lunch?"
Yeah.
I think you would be. You're not going to be like, "I cannot believe she did not say hello, Christina. I hope all is well with you and the family. The weather's beautiful today, isn't it?
Yes.
I was writing to see if we're still on for lunch tomorrow." Like, who has that kind of time? We still on for lunch? Question mark. It may not even be a full sentence. And I feel like that's okay.
Abrupt. That's what people think it is.
It is abrupt.
Okay, we have gotten far off topic now. What were we talking about again?
I can circle it back, but I think when we're talking about people being uncomfortable with no, I think that could be part of that reason is that they don't want to seem rude or impolite or abrupt or like, so if there's a guy that you really like, for example, and maybe you're not ready to have sex with him right now, but you really like him, you don't, like, when he starts, you don't want to just be like, no. Like, you don't want to wrap him on the nose like a dog, like with the nose, no. You don't want to do that. So I think in a way you're kind of more likely to be a little bit more coy because you don't want to ruin the relationship. Like, you still like the guy and you may want to have sex with him eventually, just not right now. So you kind of, waffle a little bit. And then the guy's like, well, I didn't know what you really meant because you were like, I don't know. And I don't know. But then I can play the other side and be like, dude, you know what she meant. Like if she's not trying to unzip your pants too, it's probably no. So calm down.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, some of this does just really ice the whole experience, right? Of the little cat and mouse game that people play and
I know.
And the flirtatiousness, that's just human behavior, isn't it? Isn't that just natural human behavior? I mean, I don't want to take that.
If you read Sapiens, no, it's actually not.
It's not. Well, that was on my book list, and I haven't read it.
Well, I mean, I think that when you're looking at human behavior, we're talking about that's normal human socialized behavior versus normal human biological behavior. Because when you're looking at humans biologically, sex is not really this romantic thing. It serves a purpose. Like, we're going to create some babies. That's what we're going to do. And that's kind of the purpose of it. But I think that what we have made it within the society is, yes, that is part of the behavior, is the cat and mouse and the, you're the man and you're supposed to pursue me. And now we're talking about all sorts of gender roles as well, which I'm not an expert on. But let's do my baseline. You're a man and you're supposed to pursue me, and I'm a woman and I'm supposed to make it kind of difficult for you, but, throw out enough carrots that I want it too. And that's like the back and forth. That's the tango that we're doing.
The mating ritual.
Right. So I think it's more ritualistic than it is human behavior. I think we've made that ritual normal. Whereas like biologically, like, we would just go have sex. Hopefully somebody gets pregnant and such is life. Like,
well, humans have to enjoy it or they won't do it, right? I mean, animals, when they're out in the forest eating, plants out of the ground, are they thinking, this is so tasty, but it needs a little salt? I mean, they're just trying to survive.
That's true.
We don't do that. We want to eat something that's good. If it's bland, we don't want it. Same with sex, right? We
Well,
want to play that game. If it didn't feel good, we wouldn't do it.
I read somewhere, and I don't remember where I read this, that there is really something to that sex needs to be pleasurable for humans to do it. And I think that it's because, when you look at, especially like biologically, so if you look at women, we have sex, you get pregnant, you're kind of down and out for 9 months. I've heard it's actually like 10. So God bless you guys. All of you moms out there. But like, so you're kind of like down for like a few months, and then you have childbirth, which is also not really pleasant from what I hear. But you have to have some reason to want to keep doing it.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, we had to add some pleasure to this, because if the whole experience, just beginning to end, sucked, why would you do it?
Right. Yeah,
So
that's how we are as humans. So I don't know. I guess I have to read *Sapiens*, but back in caveman days, I always used to joke like, "Oh, that guy's a caveman. I'm surprised he didn't come over here and clobber me over the head with a club and drag me into the woods." But I don't know. What does *Sapiens* say about how people reproduced back then? Did they have any what was their courting ritual? Was it similar to what I just described?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I don't distinctly remember. I mean, I may want to go back, because it's a great book, but it covers so much that I think it's one of those books you probably have to read a couple of times, because there's so much information in it. But I mean, when you look at it that way, and you're looking at it from the perspective of the animal kingdom, like, there's no rape. Like a male of whatever species is going to go up to a female of whatever species, and they're just going to have some sex. It's not going to be like the woman's going to be like, no, I don't want to.
Oh, it's that they don't call it rape. It's they don't have to go up to the female and woo them. And although I don't know, I've heard that there are some animals that do sort of have something like that. See, we're going way off into, beyond our area of expertise, but just flipping through like National Geographic, there are certain animals that kind of have something like that. Not obviously the way humans do it. But then I heard that, I think it was koala bears actually do rape each other.
Oh my God. Where did you hear that?
Well, I think somebody told me who had watched it on one of those Discovery Channel shows. We are going to have to find out the answer to this. And
we're
in the gallery.
We're going to have to. But, I think that we spoke a lot about assault, but I think that harassment is even grayer. Like when you look at the area, and like, I know that I've hear like guys making comments, and they're like, oh, like, especially in a professional context, like if, you go to court or you go to a meeting or something like that, and the guy's like, oh, you look really nice today. And they're like, oh, can I not say that to you anymore, that you look nice today? And you're like, yes, you can tell someone that they look nice, I think, but I also think that you kind of, number one, need to know your audience. And number two, you kind of have to know your situation. Because for me, if I'm going to court, why is my appearance even relevant? Like if I'm walking into a courtroom and like my male adversary is like, that's a nice suit, you're looking good. I mean, maybe a nice suit is different, because I'm like, well, thanks. Usually for me, I'd be like, I got it on sale. That's probably my next comment of like, let me tell you how cheap this suit was. But like, I think there's a line that can be crossed of like, when is it appropriate to comment on appearance and when is it not? Like, I think it's okay to say like, that's a great suit. Those are beautiful shoes. Like, your hair looks really nice. Like, I think compliments are one thing, but like, when you take it to the level of like, Ross, your ass in that skirt, you're doing things like, I think you kind of know where the line is. Like most people should know where that line is, right?
Yeah, and I think you also have to know how to read the room, right? If someone's not responding positively, you should be able to pick that up and not do it. If they don't seem like they're welcoming those comments or that engagement, whatever it is, back off. I think sometimes that's where things go awry.
Well, I think where people get into the most trouble, though, is probably like workplace relationships because there are power dynamics
Yes.
there. Like there are, like, am I your boss? Are you my boss? Am I going to feel a certain way if, you come on to me and I don't play along, or I like, I shut it down and I'm like, please don't talk to me that way. Is that going to have a negative impact on me? And in a way, I think that that's kind of what makes this topic so difficult because, you know, let's again play devil's advocate. You have the people that go like, oh, you guys have been fighting to get into this boys club and you've been fighting to, be with where, doing what all the guys do, and you're on the golf course with us, you're in the bar with us. Well, guess what? That's how we talk there. So if you can't handle it, then don't be there. There are a lot of people that think that way, that think like, this is what happens when I'm on the golf course. I want to be able to talk about sex or talk about women or talk about, and if you're a woman and you want to be on the golf course with me, why should I have to change to make you comfortable? But then I kind of think, well, why shouldn't you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, know your audience. If you know that there are women there, then, cut it out.
Well, that reminds me of what Trump said, that it was just locker room talk.
Right.
Like that was the way he justified it. And I don't know. I mean, I think people should be able to say what they want to say when they're in private, but you have to be mindful of who your audience is. So if there are women there, then you shouldn't engage in the locker room talk. Although I have heard the argument that the locker room talk should just be eliminated because it really just perpetuates the stereotypes. I don't know how realistic it is, though, that people are going to stop talking that way. What do you think?
I don't think that it's realistic. I think that, when you're among people that you're comfortable with, you're going to say things that you don't say in mixed company. That's just what it is. Like, I mean, I'm sure that I say things with my family or friends that I absolutely would not say in the office, or I absolutely would not say in a courtroom or at a social event. Like, there are just certain things you don't say and ways you don't talk. What I will say is I think for women especially, and I'm just going to speak from my own experience, I generally don't mind locker room talk. It doesn't really offend me. Like, I really don't care. You know what I mean? I think that one of the problems that as a woman, though, that you can run into, and I have run into this problem, is that if I'm at a social event and you're saying like off-color stuff, sometimes it is funny. And sometimes I am going to laugh because I'm kind of like, that's funny. You know what I mean?
I think we all do that.
Yeah, I mean, and it just is. But I think that sometimes you then have to have that extra precaution as a woman that you don't have to have as a man. That if you're there and you're kind of cool with the locker room talk and you really don't care and you laugh at the jokes and this, that, and the other, I think that men can then have a perception that you want to do the things that you may be joking about.
Yeah.
And then you kind of run into the like, we can joke and you can say things and I might laugh at them because I'm not really offended by what you're saying. That does not mean I plan to go home with you. Like, you need to understand that it's a joke, and I think that sometimes when you then introduce women or you inject women into that landscape, the men are like, we're joking, and oh, look, Robin's laughing. Maybe that means Robin does want to do some stuff. And I'm like, no, Robin's just laughing. Like, there's like, you can't blur that line. I think if you want to call it locker room talk, then understand, even if there are women present, it's still just talk.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if we can really pinpoint exactly what is locker room talk and what's sort of going beyond that and is just too offensive and nobody should be uttering it. Like, racial slurs. I mean, really, ideally, people should stop using them because it does perpetuate the idea that certain races are inferior, right? Like, would we want people to use that in private?
But I think that it would be very naive of me to think that people don't.
Yes, I agree.
Even people who wouldn't say it to my face doesn't mean they're not going to say it behind my back. So we can't police private behavior. Yes, we can say that, that's not okay and you shouldn't be saying those words ever, or you shouldn't be joking about certain things ever. But I think it really just comes down to us having a comfort level that sometimes it could be difficult to attain. to speak up. So even when you are in a situation where there's locker room talk and maybe somebody says something that's offensive to you, like, it's okay to say too far. Like, that's not funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I guess we can even talk about what we're discussing here on this show today, that, you know, maybe you guys are talking, you know, you're with a group of guys and they're talking and they're laughing and this, that, and the other. And then maybe they make a joke about raping someone. And you go, not funny. Not funny. You know what I mean? Like, no, we should not be all laughing about, like, oh, let me hit her over the head and she won't even know what I did to her. Not funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's okay for you to be the person to draw that line, because the reality is a lot of people, and this is going to be a news flash for a lot of people watching this show, a lot of people are stupid. just dumb.
You
just
don't
dumb.
say.
I know. And I think that sometimes they do need someone, as silly as this sounds, they do need somebody to say, do you realize how offensive what you just said is? Because sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes
right.
they do. And sometimes
incredible.
they do. But
yeah, and also depends what kind of environment you grew up in, where you live. I tend to think that people that are in more rural areas, less sophisticated areas, they just have a completely different standard about how it's okay to act and what it's okay to say. So where they live, it might be okay to say certain things that would be considered private locker room talk. But then if you go move to New York City, where standards are a little different, you might find yourself saying things that are not okay with most of the people that are around you. So, I don't know. It's hard. There's not really a right answer. And even if you and I come up with what we think is the right answer, it doesn't mean everybody else thinks so too and is going to abide by it. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, whatever answer we come up with is clearly going to be the right answer.
Yes.
Like, clearly. I mean, if that's what we have come up with, that is clearly the way that it needs to be. So either get on board, people, with what Christina and I think is the right thing to do. Get on board. But no, I mean, I don't know that there's a right or wrong. I think that when I think about this topic, and it's such a broad topic that, you know, there's no way that we could cover all of our thoughts. But I know that for me, when I think about it, the thing that I think sticks out to me the most is, you know, I think that we need to create an environment where people are comfortable walking in their truth, whatever that truth is. So if your truth is this happened to you, I would love to live in a world where you're comfortable saying this happened to me, whenever it is that you want to say it. And I think that if we were to create that environment, it would eliminate, on some level, the issue of people waiting 2, 3, 5, 10, 30 years to come out, because they would understand that they're in a safe place to come out when it happens to them and say, this happened to me and this is not okay. That would be wonderful if we can get there, and I know that we're not there. Hence, the reason that people often wait, because they're re-victimized just coming out, and they've already undergone this trauma. They don't want the second trauma. Like, I'm already trying to get over the fact that the rape happened or the harassment happened, and now I lost my job and I don't know what to do. I'm trying to get my life back together. I don't want to deal with the publicity of coming out. And if we could create a safe space where that's okay, that would solve the problem. And if we had that same safe space, when people are saying inappropriate things or doing inappropriate things, then we would feel comfortable to call them on it, which could just make a whole cycle of happiness.
Yes, we solved all the world's problems.
Boom, solved.
I mean, I would like to see there be more dialogues like this, so that we can talk about it. Like, what is okay? How do people feel? And hopefully, I hope there comes a time when people do feel more comfortable expressing their feelings, like saying that was offensive to me. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Would you please not do that again? I'm wondering if people did feel more comfortable coming forward like that and expressing themselves, if we would even have as many of these problems as we do. Because I do think that sometimes there's just a misunderstanding. You know, you may be making sexual jokes to somebody at work, and because they never say anything, or maybe they even laugh, you kind of see that as, oh, okay, she thinks it's funny too. But inside, she doesn't think it's funny. And she might be going home and saying, can you believe what so and so said to me today? But how is he supposed to know? You might think, yeah, oh, he should just know. Come on, he should just know. But
maybe not.
If you're laughing, how would he know?
Well, I think you're laughing, and how would he know? But like, then you also have the flip side of that, of then how are you made to feel if you say something?
Yeah.
Like if you say like, hey, like, enough with the jokes, like it's offensive, and then you get the like, oh my God, lighten up. It's just a joke. Like, why do you have such a stick up your ass all the time? Then you start to feel like, well, I am late and I don't have a stick up my ass. Like, so you don't want to say anything because you don't want to be the person who's always like, oh, here's Debbie Downer. Robin won't let us have any fun. Like, anytime we try to joke around, she puts the kibosh. Like, nobody wants to be that person either. Right. So then you don't say anything.
You don't want to be the one at work. And, you and we have the luxury of not really being in a corporate environment. We own our businesses. We are the boss at our businesses. Right. So we're not in that corporate environment, like at a big company where there's a lot of bosses above you. You're just a small fish in a big pond. And if you do say something, you're worried that, okay, well, now the bosses know that I made this complaint, that I was uncomfortable with something that happened in the office, and oh, well, we got to watch her now because she's a liability now.
Yeah,
she could accuse somebody of something. And if I was in a big corporate environment, I have to be honest, I that would concern me.
It would concern me too.
Talking about, sex every time I go in the kitchen to get a cup of coffee, and now I'm avoiding the kitchen and avoiding him because I don't want to participate in this, but he's not getting the hints. And
more importantly, you're avoiding coffee, which is a problem. Like, if I can't have my 900 cups of coffee a day because you're always in the kitchen talking about your penis, that's a problem. Like, why
coffee now?
Exactly, right? But so, like,
I don't want people to listen to this and think, oh, Christina and Robin, you just have it all figured out, don't you?
Yes, yes, we do.
We
no, we don't. We don't.
These are sticky. They just are. So
I think we could talk about this all day, and there would not. I don't know that there'd be a right answer or a resolution or how this is supposed to be done, because I can honestly, perhaps this is the lawyer in me, perhaps it's the Libra in me, I can see both sides. Like, I can. I mean, I can't see a side of a rape. Let's be clear. Jesus.
A rape. Well, there is
a rape, right.
There is a chapter of Catch and Kill called Dinosaur, where basically one of Harvey Weinstein's explanations for his behavior in the beginning, before he went to jail, was that, I come from a different generation, and it was okay to say things of a sexual nature back then. And, I know the newer generations, they don't do that. And it's like, no, that's not okay. Okay. It's not okay if you're a dinosaur, get with it. Here's
what I'll say to the dinosaurs. And I'll say this as someone who is, who runs a business, and I am the self-proclaimed head of HR. Maybe not self-proclaimed, I think, because nobody else wants to do it.
You are the head of, you are HR, and what else? You're accounting and billing.
Technically, my partner's accounting and billing. But she was more than happy to be like, sure, Robin, handle HR. What I will say is, it's a place of business, and we should never be talking about sex. It's work. It's work. Like, I'm sorry, talk about sex with your friends, talk about sex at home, talk about sex. And if you're friendly with someone at work and you have that legitimately friendly relationship, talk about sex with them in their office. You don't need to be in the kitchen talking about sex. And it's very difficult, especially like in my environment, I have a small office. We all get along. We're all really friendly. And I think that we have to be very, very careful, especially when new people come in, because we can, and things might get inappropriate, to say, like, we need to be careful that we're not offending anyone. Whether it's talking about sex, whether it's talking about politics, whether it's talking about religion, like we need to be careful because we all feel like we know each other, that we're not offending anyone. So I think my answer to the sexual harassment question is just don't bring sex to work. It's work. There are plenty of things for us to talk about. There are plenty of other things for us to, engage in and chat about over the lunch table. Sex should not be one of them. And I know that it's difficult when you work with people. Look, I will tell you, at my old law firm, we had a group of people, and the conversations that would happen at lunch were like problematic. Like I feel like as an employer, I cringe. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that's what we were talking about. And I think that we are lucky that there were no lawsuits because we were just all so comfortable with each other that it was like, yeah, we would talk about anything. And I get that. But if you're in a work environment that's like that, it's going to be really difficult for you to be the one to say, like, I don't want to talk about this.
I know.
I'm not comfortable.
You don't want to be the Debbie Downer.
Yeah, you don't want to be the wet blanket. And it's tough.
Wet blanket.
Yeah, it's tough. Debbie Downer, right. There's so many ways to describe it. So
are there all women
I don't have an
in
answer.
your office?
Right now, in my current office, yes, it's all women. When I was at the old firm, it was women and men, but we were all like comfortable and we would all chat about stuff and like, oh, did you hear about this? And, I mean, there were a lot of things being looked up on Urban Dictionary. Like, I don't even know what the hell that is. Like, there was a lot of talk, but we were all so comfortable with each other that everybody knew it was not going to be like, nothing was meant of it. Like, nobody was trying to have sex with each other that I know of. I don't know.
Maybe they were.
Maybe there were. I don't know. But, like, it was kind of like, oh, we're just hanging out, we're chatting, we're talking. But when I think back to some of those talks, I'm like, bad. That's bad.
Well, I feel like we could just do another episode of this. Let's see how it goes. Peanut Gallery, why don't you guys leave comments? And if you would like us to revisit this topic when we're actually live and you can participate, let us know. We can do that. I feel like this was maybe a bit of a down topic right before a holiday.
Well, to make it uplifting, I wish everyone lots of turkey and sex this Thanksgiving.
Turkey and sex. I love it.
Yeah. Maybe the sex before the turkey, though. That's my advice to you. Prior to the turkey.
I think that's a good idea. All right. Thank you for watching or listening to the Shit Talkin' podcast. We will see you again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Toodles.
Bye.